His alien employee tore his shirt, but her reward wasn't what he expected. Asterisk. The night was quiet, except for the hum of alien machines. Deep in Orbital Station 9, a human engineer named Evan worked alone under cold blue lights. Around him floated tools, glowing wires, and strange Threxian crystals pulsing with soft light. He rubbed his tired eyes, wondering why his alien assistant, Lyria, hadn't returned yet. Lyria was not like any alien he had met before. She looked human in shape, but her skin shimmered faintly like silver silk under light. Her eyes glowed gold when she was focused, and her voice carried power even when she whispered. Most humans feared Threxians, but Evan found something different in her, something quiet, strong, and deeply alive. When the door slid open behind him, he didn't need to turn. He knew that soft metallic scent. Lyria was back. "You're still working?" she asked, her tone half concern, half command. "Someone has to make sure this core doesn't explode," Evan said with a tired grin. She tilted her head, her braids shining like threads of mercury. "You humans never rest." Before he could answer, the crystal on the table began to glow brighter. It pulsed faster and cracked down the center. The hum turned into a sharp ringing sound that shook the air. "Get back!" Evan shouted, grabbing his scanner, but it was too late. A flash burst from the crystal, flooding the room in white light. Lyria moved faster than human eyes could follow. She leapt across the table, pushed Evan to the floor, and wrapped her body around his. The explosion hit, sending debris flying. The smell of burning circuits filled the room, and alarms screamed through the lab. When the smoke cleared, Evan opened his eyes. Lyria was still over him, breathing hard, her arms pressing him down. Her claws had shredded through his shirt when she shielded him. Tiny cuts marked his chest where the fabric tore. For a moment, neither spoke. The lights flickered red, and all he could hear was her heartbeat against his. "Are you hurt?" she asked softly, her golden eyes scanning him. "No. Just my shirt," he muttered, staring at the torn fabric. Lyria's lips curved slightly, almost like a smile. She didn't move away immediately, her breath still brushing his cheek. Then she whispered, "Threxians do not protect for free." Evan blinked, unsure if she was joking. "What does that mean?" he asked. She leaned closer until her voice was a whisper near his ear. "It means I will collect my reward in my way." Before he could ask more, she stood and offered her hand to pull him up. Her movements were calm, graceful, but her eyes told another story. Something had changed, something dangerous and exciting at once. Evan followed her gaze to the shattered crystal. It still glowed faintly, leaking silver light. "That energy signature," he said, scanning the data. "It's not from our reactor system." Lyria's face hardened. "That's Threxian origin." He looked up sharply. "But this was supposed to be a human test unit." She didn't answer. She only said, "You should not have been near it alone." He frowned. "I didn't want to wait." The team was gone. She turned to him, eyes narrowing. "You humans always push too far." Then her gaze softened again, and she stepped closer. Her hand, strong yet gentle, touched the rip in his shirt. "I tore this," she said quietly. "I owe you another." He felt heat rise in his chest, though the room was cold. "It's fine, really," he said, trying to sound normal, but she tilted her head, her expression unreadable. "In my culture, we fix what we damage." "But not with fabric," she murmured. Her words hung in the air, like static electricity. Evan opened his mouth, but the alarm interrupted again. "Containment breach in Sector 7, the AI voice announced. They both looked at the broken core. Lyria moved first. "We need to secure this now." She grabbed a containment capsule and began sealing the shards. Her every movement was precise, disciplined. Practiced like a soldier, Evan helped, though his hands shook slightly. He wasn't sure if it was fear or something else. When they finished, she looked at him again, a long, steady look that made his chest tighten. "You saved me," he said quietly. "No," she replied. "I saved what is mine." And before he could understand what she meant, she turned and walked toward the exit. Her tail, barely visible in silver, swayed slightly as the doors hissed open. Evan stared after her, heart pounding. What did she mean, mine? He looked down at his torn shirt, at the faint scratches on his skin. Her claws had marked him, not deeply, but enough he didn't know why. But the thought made him shiver. The lights dimmed back to normal, and the hum of the machines filled the silence again. He sighed, ran a hand through his hair, and whispered, "This job is going to kill me." Then, almost smiling, he added softly, "Or maybe she will." The camera in the corner blinked red, silently recording everything. Somewhere, a file labeled Project Bond, Phase 1, began uploading. And as the screen faded to black, a calm voice could be heard. "Don't forget to subscribe to the HFYC Fee channel for more incredible stories." The next morning, the station floated in silent orbit above the red planet. Sunlight from the twin stars poured through the lab windows, bathing the metallic floor in gold and scarlet hues. Evan hadn't slept, not after what happened with the crystal. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw that flash of white light, Laria's glowing eyes, and her voice whispering about a reward. He stood in front of the mirror in his small cabin, touching the faint claw marks across his chest. They had already begun to fade, but when he moved his fingers over them, a strange warmth pulsed beneath his skin. It wasn't pain. It was something alive, something humming quietly. He didn't understand it, but a part of him didn't want to. The door chimed, and before he could answer, it slid open. Lyria stepped in, calm and composed as always. She wore her Threxian armor today, black and silver plates that caught the light like water. Evan almost forgot to breathe for a moment. "You should learn to lock your door," she said, eyes scanning his room. "You should learn to knock," he replied, trying to sound casual. Her golden eyes flicked toward him, and for a second, he thought he saw amusement in them. "We have a mission," she said, tossing a datapad onto his table. "The director wants us to retrieve a Threxian artifact from an old wreck in orbit." Evan frowned. "Another Threxian object? After what happened last night?" Her voice lowered. "That's exactly why." He picked up the datapad, scrolling through the details. "Derelict warship. Sector 9. Threxian coordinates," he read aloud. "Wait," he looked up. "You were in this fleet, weren't you?" She didn't answer, but the way her jaw tightened told him everything. As they prepared to leave, Lyria moved with quiet purpose. But there was something heavy in her movements, something that felt like restraint. When they boarded the small transport pod, Evan noticed she sat closer than usual. "Lyria," he said after a moment, "about what you said yesterday." She turned her gaze toward him, calm but unblinking. "About your reward," he added softly. For a second, the engine seemed louder, filling the silence between them. Then she leaned slightly forward, her voice almost a whisper. "You still owe it," Evan laughed nervously. "Owe you for saving me?" "No," she said, her tone serious now. "For letting me feel something I wasn't supposed to." Her words made his chest tighten. Before he could ask what she meant, the ship jolted, entering the warship's debris field. The view outside the window was breathtaking and haunting. Huge metal fragments drifted in the void, glinting like frozen blades under the stars. The warship loomed ahead, massive, broken, and silent. Its once proud Threxian insignia still burned faintly across the hull. Evan felt the air grow colder, even through the suit. They docked with a magnetic lock and stepped inside. The interior was dark, filled with drifting dust and echoes of the past. Each step echoed through empty corridors lined with strange carvings. "This place feels haunted," Evan muttered. Lariah stopped suddenly, her gaze sharp. "Show respect." "This was my command post once." He froze, realizing she wasn't exaggerating. "This was." "Your ship?" he whispered. She nodded, her voice distant. "I led this fleet before your kind ever reached the stars." Her golden eyes softened slightly. "We built these walls with honor, and died defending them." They continued deeper into the ship until they reached a chamber filled with crystal pods. The artifact they were sent to find pulsed at the center, a heart-shaped relic made of transparent silver light. Evan approached carefully, but the hum of energy grew louder the closer he got. He turned to Lariah. "You said Threxians honor bravery through something called a bond." She stepped toward him, her eyes glowing brighter now. "Yes," she said slowly. "A life bond." Evan frowned. "You mean like marriage?" Her lips curved faintly. "Your word is smaller." "Human." She placed her palm against the relic, and the light surged through her hand into the room. The floor vibrated, symbols lighting up beneath them. He felt a pull, an invisible thread linking his heartbeat to hers. "What's happening?" he asked, his voice shaking. She didn't move her hand. "You stood before Threxian energy and lived. That means fate has chosen you." Evan took a step back. "Chosen me for what?" She looked at him, eyes burning, voice trembling between warning and longing. "To share a bond no human has ever survived." He froze. "Survived?" Her gaze softened. "Once it begins, it cannot be undone. Refusal means death. For one of us?" Evan's breath caught. "You're joking." "I do not joke about vows of life," she said simply. She took a step closer, and the hum in the air deepened. Her presence filled the space. Heat, power, danger all at once. "I saved you." "Human," she whispered. "Now fate demands I claim what I protected." Evan's heart pounded in his chest. "Claim?" He repeated, his voice barely audible. Lariah's hand rose, her fingers tracing the line of his neck. "Your courage awakened something inside me. Something that should have stayed buried." The relic pulsed again, and for an instant the light wrapped around them both like fire. Evan felt her heartbeat inside his mind. Fast, fierce, terrified, he gasped, stumbling backward. But she caught his wrist and held him firm. "Don't fight it," she said. "You started this when you looked at me like that." Her golden eyes shimmered with emotion that wasn't just alien. It was something deeply human. The light began to fade, but the echo of the bond remained. Evan could still feel her emotions. Her fear, her loneliness, her desire. He didn't understand any of it, yet he couldn't look away. She released his wrist slowly, her expression unreadable. "Now you know," she said softly, "why Threxians don't touch humans." And as the warship lights flickered back to life, Evan realized whatever this bond was, it had already begun. He wasn't sure if it would save them or destroy them. But one thing was certain. There was no going back now. The silence in the ruined warship felt alive. Evan's pulse beat in his ears, matching the faint hum of the glowing relic between them. Lariah stood perfectly still, her golden eyes dimmed, her hand trembling slightly though she tried to hide it. The strange light that had surrounded them faded, but something invisible had already connected them. Evan could feel her emotions, faint but real, confusion, pain, and something deeper that he couldn't name. "What did you do to me?" he whispered. "I didn't do this alone," she replied softly. The relic chose to complete the bond. Her voice was calm, but her chest rose and fell with uneven rhythm. "You feel it too, don't you?" she asked quietly. Evan swallowed hard. "I feel." Your heartbeat, even when you're not touching me. She nodded. That is how it begins. He tried to pull away, but the air between them resisted, like invisible threads pulling him back. I can't breathe, he muttered, gripping his chest. Don't fight it, she said sharply. Fighting will make the pain worse. What pain? His words broke off as a wave of energy hit him. It was like being set on fire from the inside, but at the same time, his vision filled with flashes, not his own memories, but hers. He saw a battlefield drenched in red mist. He saw Lyria, younger, standing over fallen soldiers, her armor cracked, her sword glowing with blue flame. He heard screams, human voices mixed with alien ones. Then he saw her kneel beside a dying Threxian, whispering a vow in a language he didn't understand. Suddenly the scene shattered, and he gasped for air, falling to his knees. Lyria knelt beside him, her expression full of guilt. You weren't ready, she murmured. Your mind isn't built for our memories. What the hell was that? He gasped. My past, she said quietly. You saw my bond, my last command. He looked up at her, sweat running down his face. You? Killed for this bond? She didn't deny it. I lived and died for it. Evan tried to steady his breathing. Something pulsed under his skin again. Bright veins of faint silver light spreading from his chest toward his arms. What's happening to me? He said, panic rising in his voice. The relic marked you, she said, her tone heavy. You are bound to me now until the link stabilizes. And if it doesn't? He asked. Her silence was enough of an answer. The warship suddenly groaned as something shifted deep within. A low metallic screech echoed through the corridors, followed by the sound of movement. Evan turned toward the noise. Please tell me that's not defense drones, she cut in, drawing her plasma blade in one smooth motion. They shouldn't be active. Evan said, grabbing his scanner. They are responding to me, she said grimly. The ship recognizes my blood, but not my bond with you. Red lights flickered across the walls as mechanical sentinels floated into view, their glowing eyes locked on Evan first. Targeting his human signature, run! Lyria shouted, swinging her blade. The first drone split apart with a crack of light, sparks raining down like silver snow. Evan ducked behind a console, trying to override the control system. I can't shut them down. He yelled. You don't need to, she shouted back, leaping between drones, her movements sharp and deadly. He watched her, not just as a warrior, but as something more than human. Her speed, her strength, her fury, they were terrifying and beautiful all at once. One drone fired a plasma bolt toward him. Lyria turned and took the hit directly across her shoulder. The impact threw her backward, slamming her into the wall. Lyria! He shouted, running toward her. She tried to rise, but her armor was cracked, glowing faintly with leaking energy. Without thinking, Evan grabbed the relic from its pedestal. It pulsed violently in his hands, sending jolts through his arms. Evan, stop! She shouted weakly. You can't control it. But he ignored her. Pressing his hand against the relic, the silver light exploded from it, washing across the chamber. The drones froze mid-attack, their circuits flickering, and then they dropped to the floor, silent. Evan fell beside her, gasping, his body trembling from the energy surge. Lyria looked at him in shock. You survived. Barely, he whispered, forcing a grin. Then he noticed. The wound on her shoulder had stopped bleeding. Silver threads of light stretched from his chest to her wound. Knitting the torn flesh closed, she looked down at his hand touching her armor. And for the first time, her expression softened completely. You completed the ritual, she said quietly. He blinked, still confused. What ritual? The bonding ritual, she replied, her voice trembling slightly. The relic responded to your will, not mine. Evan frowned. Is that bad? Her eyes met his, deep, golden, full of something raw. "It means you are no longer the protected one, human," she whispered. "You are the protector." Evan didn't understand the weight of her words. But he felt it. A heat burned in his chest, not pain, but connection. Every heartbeat felt like it was shared between them now. He could feel her relief, her exhaustion, and something else she was hiding, fear. "Why are you afraid?" he asked softly. Her eyes shimmered. "Because no Threxian bond has ever chosen love before he could speak." The ship's alarm echoed again. Unauthorized energy surge detected, the AI voice warned. "Security teams inbound." Lyria stood, helping him up, her hand firm on his arm. "They will come for you now, not me," she said. "They will want to know how a human could command our relics." Evan stared at her. "Then what do we do?" She turned toward the glowing corridor, her expression unreadable. "We run," she said, "and this time you don't get to say no." The warship lights flared white as they vanished into the dark passage ahead. And for the first time, Evan felt it clearly, her heartbeat inside his chest, echoing his own, whatever they had started. It was far beyond either of them now. Something ancient had awakened, and it wasn't finished with them yet. The shuttle door hissed open as Evan and Lyria stepped back into the human colony station. Artificial light replaced the deep blue glow of space, but the air felt heavier. Evan's body ached, every muscle burning after what happened inside the Threxian warship. He could still feel her pulse echoing inside him, a silent rhythm that wasn't his. It made him uneasy, and yet he couldn't bear to let it fade. They walked down the steel corridor, pretending everything was normal. Security drones floated past, scanning badges, faces, and energy signatures. Lyria kept her hood up, her armor hidden under a dark cloak, but Evan could tell the glow under her skin was dimmer. She was hiding something, and he knew it wasn't just fear. When they reached the lab, the director was already waiting, a tall man with gray hair and a scar across his jaw. His eyes flicked from Evan to Lyria, cold and sharp like glass. "You two took longer than authorized," he said flatly. Evan forced a smile. "The warship was unstable, sir. We had to." The director raised a hand, cutting him off. "Save the explanation. We've already reviewed the data feed." Lyria's head snapped up. "You were monitoring us?" "Of course," he said. "That mission wasn't yours alone." "Threxian." He pressed a button on his wrist console, and a hologram appeared. It showed the footage from the ship, the relic glowing, Evan touching it, the drones falling, and then, the moment their bodies connected, light surging between them. Evan felt his stomach drop. "You recorded that?" The director's gaze was unreadable. Every second, he stepped closer, voice low and firm. "Do you have any idea what you've done, Mr. Hawley?" Evan hesitated. "I saved her." The director's tone turned cold. "You bonded with her." His words hung heavy in the air. "That artifact was supposed to be studied, not awakened. And now it's linked to your DNA." Lyria's voice cut through the tension, calm but deadly. "If you touch him, I will destroy this entire facility." The director's jaw tightened. "You're not in command here, alien." "Neither are you," she replied, stepping closer, her golden eyes glowing faintly. The air shimmered with pressure, the lights flickering as if the walls could feel her anger. Evan stepped between them, raising his hands. "Stop it, both of you." But the director's security guards were already moving in. One of them aimed a shock rifle at Lyria. Before he could fire, his weapon shattered in his hands, melted by invisible force. Lyria's voice was low and dangerous. "No human threatens what I have bonded to." The director's calm finally cracked. "Restrain them." The guards charged, but the moment they touched Evan, a surge of light burst from his chest. Every piece of metal in the room rattled and lifted into the air. The guards flew backward. Hitting the walls with a crash, Evan stood frozen, staring at his hands. They glowed faintly with silver light. "What did I just do?" he whispered. Lyria stared at him too, her voice trembling. "The relic's power moved through you. It obeys you now." The director backed away, face pale. "You're a threat to this colony," he hissed. "You both are." He pressed an emergency alert on his wrist console. All around them, red lights flashed and alarms wailed. The room locked down with a heavy clang. "Containment protocol initiated," the AI announced. Lyria grabbed Evan's arm. "We have to go now." "Go where?" he asked, panic in his voice. "Anywhere but here," she said, pulling him toward the maintenance tunnels. The metal doors began to seal behind them, and they ran, their footsteps echoing in the long corridors. As they moved through the dark tunnels, Evan felt his heartbeat synchronize with hers again. Every surge of fear in her chest echoed in his. He could feel her focus, sharp, cold, determined. "Lyria," he said between breaths, "what happens if they capture us?" She didn't answer immediately, then whispered, "They will cut us apart to see what we've become." They reached a lower deck filled with storage crates. Lyria stopped suddenly, pressing her hand against her temple. "What's wrong?" he asked. "The bond is unstable," she said through gritted teeth. "You're not built for this energy." Her voice softened. "It's hurting you, and I can feel it." Evan shook his head. "I'm fine," but his vision blurred, the world spinning slightly. The silver glow on his chest flickered like a heartbeat fading. Lyria grabbed his shoulders, forcing him to look at her. "Listen to me, human," she said, voice trembling. "If you lose consciousness, the link could collapse. And if that happens, one of us dies." Evan met her eyes, his voice unsteady. "Which one?" Her silence said everything. They heard footsteps above, soldiers sweeping the corridors. Lyria pulled them into a hidden passage and sealed the hatch. The narrow space was dimly lit, their faces only inches apart. He could feel her breath, warm against his skin. "You risked everything for me," she whispered. "And now your people will hunt you because of it." He smiled weakly. "Guess that makes us even." Lyria looked away, her expression torn between guilt and something deeper. "You shouldn't have touched the relic," she said. "It wasn't meant for human hands." Evan leaned back against the wall. "Too late now." Then he looked at her seriously. "You said the bond connects us. Can it also protect us?" She hesitated, then nodded slowly. "If we synchronize completely, we could hide our energy from scanners." "Then let's do it," he said. Her eyes widened slightly. "You don't understand what that means." "Explain it," he said. "It means merging your thoughts with mine," she whispered. "No walls, no secrets." He didn't hesitate. "Then do it." She closed her eyes and pressed her forehead against his. A surge of light pulsed through both of them. Images flashed behind his eyes, her home world, her battles, her fears. He felt her heart pounding, not just near him, but inside him. For a brief moment, they became one, her strength, his resolve, one pulse, one breath. The footsteps above faded. The scanners passed without detecting them. The danger was gone, but the silence felt heavier than before. Lyria opened her eyes, her voice soft. "They will never stop hunting us." Evan met her gaze. "Then we don't stop running." Her lips curved in a faint, sad smile. "You sound like a Threxian now, outside." The colony lights burned bright and cold, but somewhere in the shadows, a message was already being transmitted across the stars. Subject Hale and entity, Lyria. Bond confirmed, power level unknown. Initiate recovery protocol. And as their ship engines ignited, a single question lingered in Evan's mind. Had they escaped the humans, or awakened something even worse? The stolen transport drifted silently beyond the colony's orbit. Evan sat by the viewport, staring at the endless stars. He hadn't spoken for hours, and neither had Lyria. They were fugitives now, hunted by both humans and Threxians, and the bond that joined them pulsed like a heartbeat made of fire. Every few minutes, he could feel her emotions ripple through him. Anger, guilt, confusion, and something else that scared her. Affection. She hid it well, but he felt it anyway. He wondered if she could feel his too, because every time she looked away, his chest ached just a little more. Finally, she spoke, her voice quiet. "You're thinking too loud?" He glanced at her. "You can hear my thoughts now?" "Not all," she said. "Just the ones you try to hide." Evan smirked faintly. "Then you already know I'm scared." Lyria didn't answer, but her gaze softened for a second before turning back to the stars. The silence didn't last. The ship's console flickered, and a soft beeping filled the cabin. Evan frowned. "What's that?" Lyria moved quickly to the controls, her fingers flying across the interface. Her eyes narrowed. A signal, encrypted, human frequency. Evan's stomach twisted. "The Bureau found us?" She shook her head. "No, this is coming from inside the ship, before either could react." The lights dimmed, the control system shut down, and the engines died. The ship drifted, powerless. Surrounded by the vast cold of space, someone planted a recall beacon, she said bitterly. Evan's heart pounded. Who would? Then he stopped, remembering the director's last look. "He wanted us to run," Evan muttered. "So he could track us." Lyria's jaw tightened. "He wants the relic, and the bond," Evan added quietly. She turned toward him, eyes glowing faintly gold again. "Then we must destroy it." He stared at her, shocked. "Destroy it? You mean the bond?" She nodded slowly, her voice trembling though she tried to sound cold. "If we break it before they reach us, they will lose their target." He shook his head. "No. You said breaking it could kill one of us." "I said it will kill one of us," she corrected. "But it might be better than capture." Evan took a step closer. "Lyria, listen to me. We can find another way." Her voice rose. "You don't understand, human. They won't stop until they cut you open to see what you've become." He reached for her hand, but she pulled away. Her body trembled. Her eyes flickered between gold and silver. "The bond is already changing you, Evan," she whispered. "I can feel it." He looked down at his arm. Beneath the skin, faint silver veins pulsed like light trapped in glass. "Maybe it's not a curse," he said quietly. "Maybe it's something new." Lyria turned sharply. "You think you can survive with Threxian power in your blood? It will eat you from inside." "Then let it," he snapped. "If it means saving you." For a second, her mask of control broke. Her eyes shimmered with emotion she didn't want him to see. "Why would you do that?" She whispered. "Because I already did," he said softly. "The moment you saved me." Before she could respond, an alarm blared through the ship. "Docking sequence initiated," the AI announced. Lyria's eyes widened. "They're boarding us." Through the viewport, a massive shadow loomed, the Bureau's cruiser. It locked onto their hull with magnetic clamps. The air vibrated with the deep hum of tractor beams. Evan turned toward her. "We can fight," she shook her head. "Not this time." He saw it too late. The look in her eyes, the one that meant she had already decided something. "Lyria, what are you doing?" He demanded. She moved to the relic, activating the containment field. "I'm ending this," she said. "Before they use you, don't," he shouted, rushing toward her, but she extended her hand, and an invisible force threw him back against the wall. The bond flared between them, light bursting from their chests like lightning. Evan's voice broke. You can't sacrifice yourself. Her voice was steady now, but her eyes were wet. I'm not, she whispered. I'm freeing you. She pressed her palm to the relic. The light around her grew blinding. Wrapping her in silver fire, Evan struggled to stand. The energy tearing at him, the bond screamed inside his head. Every heartbeat turning into pain. Lyraya! He shouted, but his voice was swallowed by the noise. Then the world went still. He found himself lying on the cold floor. The relic was dark. The air smelled like ozone. Lyraya was gone. Only her armor lay where she had stood. Faintly glowing, Evan crawled toward it, his chest aching with every breath. Don't do this, he whispered to the silence. Don't leave me. But the silence didn't last. The door behind him slid open, and human soldiers flooded in. They surrounded him, weapons raised. The director stepped forward, his face calm but eyes full of triumph. Good work, Mr. Hawley, he said coldly. You brought it right to us. Evan froze, realization hitting him like a blade. You set this up, he said through gritted teeth. The director smiled faintly. Of course, the Phyrexian was too unpredictable. But you were easy to control. Rage filled him, hot and sharp and burning. The air around him shimmered. The silver veins on his arms flared with blinding light. The soldiers backed away as the ground trembled. Evan's voice was low but filled with fury. She trusted me, he said. And you used both of us. The director stepped back. Don't do anything stupid. But it was too late. The relic shards on the floor began to float. Light surged from Evan's chest, forming a halo around him. He felt her presence again, faint, distant, but alive. Lyraya's voice whispered through his mind. I told you, human. Our bond doesn't break so easily. His eyes widened, hope and fury merging into one. He raised his hand, and every weapon in the room disintegrated into dust. The director's smug smile vanished, and for the first time, he looked afraid. Evan stood slowly, his voice calm but shaking with emotion. You wanted the power of the bond, he said. Now you'll see what it really means. The lights exploded. The floor cracked beneath his feet, and in that chaos, a faint silver glow appeared in the air beside him. Lyraya's silhouette, her voice echoing softly through the storm. Don't stop now, human, she whispered. We are not done yet. The explosion shook the bureau's deck like thunder in a steel cage. Smoke filled the hall. Alarms screamed, and soldiers stumbled through the haze. Evan stood at the center of it all, surrounded by falling sparks and swirling light. His eyes glowed silver, the same color that once burned inside the Phyrexian relic. Lyraya's voice echoed in his mind, steady and fierce. Do not let them take you. Human. He turned toward the collapsing doorway. Soldiers tried to surround him again, but their weapons malfunctioned the moment they aimed. Metal bent, electronics died, and every spark in the air seemed to obey him. The director's voice came from behind the smoke. Stand down, Halai. You're not in control. Evan's voice was calm, cold, and unfamiliar. Neither are you. The walls groaned under invisible pressure. Then the blast doors ripped open, and the corridor beyond shimmered with blue light. A figure stepped through the haze, glowing faintly. Her form half real, half energy. It was Lyraya, or what remained of her. Her body flickered like a hologram, but her golden eyes burned bright as ever. The soldiers froze in terror. She's alive, one whispered. Lyraya's voice was soft, but filled with fury. Alive enough to finish what you started. Evan reached for her, but his hand passed through her arm. Her form wavered, like smoke in a storm. I merged with the relic, she said. That was the only way to keep the bond alive. He shook his head. You said it would kill you. It did, she whispered. But the relic made something new of me. Her voice trembled, not with weakness, but with weight. I am not Threxian anymore. Not truly. And you're no longer fully human. Evan looked down at his hands. The silver light running beneath his skin pulsed with every beat of her voice. I can feel you, he said softly, like you're part of me. Lyria smiled faintly. I am. Then her expression turned sharp. But we don't have much time. They called for orbital reinforcements. The director stumbled forward from the wreckage. Blood ran down the side of his face, but his grin remained cold. You think you can run, alien ghost? He spat. You're both property of the Bureau now, weapons. Not people. Lyria's gaze hardened. Weapons can choose where they aim. Before he could speak again, the corridor lights burst, plunging everything into darkness. In the flickering glow of emergency lamps, Evan felt her hand, not physical, but energy, grip his shoulder. Move, she said, and he obeyed. Doors slammed shut behind them as they sprinted through the facility's maintenance tunnels. The deeper they went, the stronger her voice grew in his head. It wasn't just words anymore. It was emotion, heat, memory. He saw flashes of her childhood, her training, her final battle, all flowing through him like a dream made of pain. When they reached the reactor chamber, she stopped. This is where it ends, she said. Evan frowned. Ends? No, we're escaping. Lyria turned toward him, her form flickering again. The Bureau's fleet is already locking on to this station. If we run, they'll track us through the bond. He shook his head. Then we'll break the bond together. She smiled sadly. You can't break what has become one. She floated closer, her fingers glowing as they brushed against his cheek. When I merged with the relic, it fused our energy, she said. But only one of us is meant to carry it. Evan's breath caught. You mean, she nodded slowly, you're the host now. Evan, the relic's power is inside you. My body was the vessel. Yours is the bridge. He stepped back, shaking his head. No, I won't let you fade again. Her voice softened. You can't stop what's already begun. She looked toward the reactor's central core, a swirling blue sphere of energy. If we overload it, we can erase every trace of the bond from the Bureau's scanners. Evan frowned. You mean destroy the station? She nodded. And everything inside it? Evan's mind raced. He could see the faces of the soldiers. The scientists, all of them just pawns of the director's orders. But he also saw the endless cruelty of their experiments, the screams from alien subjects, the cold reports labeled acceptable casualties. He clenched his fists, the silver veins flaring brighter. Then let's finish it, he said. But we get out alive. She tilted her head. Studying him, still human, she murmured. Still stubborn. Evan smiled faintly. You love that about me. Her lips curved just slightly. Maybe I do. She moved toward the reactor's control console. Her body flickered, merging with the interface. Energy surged through the room, lights flashing red. Overload sequence initiated. The AI droned. Reactor core at 60% capacity. Evan grabbed the emergency escape pod controls. Lyria, come on, we can go now. But she didn't move. Her voice echoed through the chamber, calm and distant. If I leave, the core will stabilize. It needs my energy to collapse. He froze. No, you promised. I promised to protect you. She whispered, and I will. He ran toward her, the light growing blinding. Don't you dare do this. He shouted, but the energy field pushed him back. She smiled through the storm, her voice breaking. You were the first human who ever looked at me without fear. Her glow began to fade into the swirling light. Now live, Evan, and remember, the bond never dies. It just changes. The explosion consumed everything. The reactor imploded, collapsing the entire level in a flash of white light. Evan was thrown into the escape pod just before the shockwave hit. The pod launched automatically, spinning into space. He screamed her name until his voice broke. But the only answer was static and silence. Hours later, the pod drifted among the wreckage of the Bureau station. Evan sat in the darkness, staring at the stars. He touched his chest, expecting pain, but felt warmth instead, and then he heard it faint, soft, like a heartbeat under his own. Lyraya's voice, distant but alive. "You didn't think I'd vanish that easily, did you, human?" A tear slipped down his face, and he smiled through it. "Then we still have a fight left," he whispered, and the stars outside seemed to shimmer in answer. The escape pod drifted for hours through the emptiness of space. Stars glimmered like cold fire all around. Silent witnesses to what had been lost, Evan sat motionless, staring at the faint blue glow still pulsing beneath his skin. The Bureau station was gone, reduced to fragments of twisted metal and burning light behind him. But he couldn't rest, not while her voice still echoed faintly in his mind. "I told you, human. The bond never dies." Her words repeated again and again. Soft but alive, he closed his eyes and whispered, "Where are you, Lyraya?" The glow inside his chest responded, flickering brighter. And then he felt it, a pull, gentle but steady, leading him somewhere beyond the stars. Evan gripped the pod's manual controls, overriding the drift mode. He followed the signal through a debris field and past the dark curve of a shattered moon. Hours passed until a shape appeared on his scanners. A ship, enormous and old, its hull was scarred and silent. But one section still pulsed with silver light. The system identified it automatically. Phyrexian flagship. Designation: Seraphes. He docked carefully, the pod locking with a hiss of vapor. The air inside the ancient vessel was heavy with dust and memory. But as he stepped through the corridor, lights flickered to life one by one. It was as if the ship recognized him. The hum of its engines grew louder, syncing with the beat of his own heart. "Lyraya," he whispered. A shimmer appeared at the far end of the hall, a figure of light forming slowly. She emerged from the glow, her armor cracked, her expression calm and unreadable. "You shouldn't have come," she said quietly. Evan's voice trembled. "You think I'd let you fade away alone?" Her golden eyes softened for the briefest moment. "You were never meant to carry this burden." He stepped closer. "Then share it with me." She looked away. "It's too late for that." But the bond pulsed stronger, the silver veins along his arms glowing brighter. "You're weakening," he said. "You can't keep yourself stable like this." "I can," she replied, "but only by merging completely with the Seraphes." Evan shook his head. "That would destroy what's left of you." She smiled faintly. "Maybe that's what must happen." Before he could answer, the ship's alarm blared. A red light flashed across the corridor as automated turrets unfolded from the ceiling. Lyraya's expression darkened. "They found us through the viewport." Dozens of Bureau ships appeared, blocking every escape route. "Fleet Alpha Command," Evan muttered, recognizing the insignia. "They're here to finish what the director started." "Then we finish it first," Lyraya said. Her voice firm again, she raised her hand. And the ship responded like a living creature. Panels shifted, energy conduits glowed, and the Seraphes came alive. Evan felt her energy merging with the ship's core. Every pulse of power flowing through their bond. The engines roared, deep and ancient. Shaking the hull with thunder, the Bureau fleet opened fire. Beams of light tearing across the void. The Seraphes moved like a phantom, absorbing the hits and returning bursts of silver plasma. Evan stumbled as the deck shook beneath him. He saw her standing in the center of the command platform, her body flickering between solid and light. "Lyraya!" He shouted, "They'll destroy you." She looked back at him with a soft smile. "Only if you stop believing in me." He ran to the control console and placed his hands on the interface. Energy surged through him, through both of them. The ship's systems expanded their connection, linking directly to the bond. Now they could feel each other completely. Thoughts. Pain, fear, love, everything, no walls, no separation, no secrets. The fleet tightened formation, surrounding them on all sides. "Evan," she said quietly, "if we combine our energy, we can disable their entire network." He frowned. "But that could burn us out." Her golden eyes shone brighter. "Better to burn together than die apart." He took a deep breath. "Then let's do it." She reached out, her glowing hand brushing against his. The instant they touched, the ship's core flared white. Every system on the Seraphiz screamed with power. The Bureau's weapons froze mid-fire, their ships trembling under the pressure of raw Threxian energy. Evan could feel the bond tearing at him, flooding him with too much power. But he held on, his voice steady through the storm. "I'm here, Lyria. I'm not letting go." Light exploded across the battlefield. Every Bureau ship went dark, their engines cut, their weapons silenced. And through the blinding glow, Lyria's figure appeared beside him, no longer flickering. Her form solid again, real, alive. She looked at him in awe. "You stabilized the bond," he smiled weakly. "We stabilized it, together, but the moment of peace didn't last." The Seraphiz shuddered violently, energy overloading its systems. "The core's collapsing," Evan warned. Lyria's voice was calm. "Then we release it." He looked at her, confused. "Release it where?" She turned toward the viewport, eyes burning bright. "Into the stars." They joined hands again, focusing all remaining energy into the core. It responded like a living heart, pulsing faster and faster. The light grew unbearable. And then the ship burst outward in a ring of pure silver fire. The shockwave rolled across the void, sweeping the Bureau fleet away like dust. When the light finally faded, there was silence, calm, endless, and peaceful. A single escape module drifted through the debris field. Inside, Evan opened his eyes. Weak but breathing, he looked around, but she wasn't there. Only a faint shimmer of light beside him, soft and warm. Then her voice whispered through the stillness. "You didn't lose me, human. You became me." He looked down at his hands, now marked with faint golden lines beneath the silver, a mix of both their worlds, both their lives. He smiled through the tears that blurred his vision. "Then wherever we go," he whispered, "we go together." Outside, the stars glowed brighter than before, as if the universe itself had heard and answered. And so the human and the Threxian became something new, not enemies, not lovers, not even two souls anymore, but one heartbeat shared between two worlds. And as the light of the Seraphiz faded into the distance, the legend of their bond began, the story of a man who loved beyond species, beyond death, beyond time, and somewhere deep in the cosmos. A soft voice echoed with a smile. "Still human," she whispered, "still stubborn."